Very good. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you very much for making the time to join us on this session. And also thank you to Jonah, our good colleague from Zimbabwe. So he's kindly offered to run this workshop for our teachers here. And this is brought to you, of course, in partnership with NetGen Education in Ethiopia. One of the objectives of NextGen is basically to offer opportunities for teachers to come together, share ideas, information, to make them better professionals. So this basically is that in action. And I sincerely hope that you find the workshop useful. You'll take some, takeaway that you can try out in your classrooms, as you endeavor to make yourselves better teachers for your students. Obviously, the session will last only about an hour, and we might not cover everything, but I believe there will be ample opportunities for you to raise concerns, to ask questions. And in the meantime, you can also, share your views with us on the chat bar. So on the side, if you've got comments or questions, please put them in there, and hopefully Jonah will have a chance to respond to those before he closes the session. I'd also like to ask you to kindly mute yourselves while you're not speaking so that we can hear Jonah clearly, yeah? By saying that once again with huge appreciation for Jonah, I hand over to start the session. Jonah, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings, everyone. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you, sharing with you what I believe is the most impactful change of our lifetime, that is artificial intelligence. Before we get started, I would like to just get to appreciate your level of knowledge or usage of AI. So please just type yes or no in response to my question. If you have used artificial intelligence in your work, please type yes. If you have not used it at all, please type no. I'll give you half a minute to do that. Okay, great. We have a few responses that have come through, and there are still people who are coming in we're in the waiting room, we're joining the meeting. So I hope we get a few more people joining. Right, so I see a yes, and a few times. So we have 3 responses. I'm thinking maybe it'll be easier if we also allow people to respond via the Telegram group. So if you are, for any reason, if you are not able to respond using the chat in here in Zoom, can you respond using the Telegram group? Just type yes or no. If you have used AI in your work, type yes. If you have never used it in your work, please type no. I see that we've got like 7 people, well, 6 in the meeting. And so far we only had 3 responses. So if you haven't responded, please type yes or no in the Telegram. I'm looking at the Telegram group right now, the NextGen Education chat, and so we can see whether or not you have used it. Okay, doesn't look like there are any responses coming through. I was hoping we would make this session an interactive one where people are also responding, but anyway, be that as it may, we will proceed. So let me share my screen and then proceed with the presentation. Right, let me see any other responses. No responses coming in yet. Or am I looking in the wrong place? Netzanet, is there any response in the Telegram group, or am I mistaken?
None I can see. So it is only the 3 responses you have on the chat bar.
Okay. All right. So that's fine. We will work with that. And hopefully people will get more responsive as we proceed with the session. Right. Let me share my screen, as I'd say, and then we'll take it up from there. Right, can you see my screen? Somebody respond yes or no. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
I
see.
can.
Fantastic. Right, so let me move on with the presentation. I'll skip this part. Firstly, a brief introduction about myself. My name is Jonah Mungoshi. I have been in full-time coaching, training, and management consultancy for 2 decades. That's 20 years. I actually left formal employment in August 2003. So August 2023 was 20 years of full-time coaching, training, and management consultancy. I previously served as the head of IT and deputy executive director for marketing and sales at CBZ Bank, which at that time was the biggest bank in Zimbabwe. I've been a British Council Master Trainer for the Connecting Classrooms program for almost a decade now. I have also designed curriculum and facilitated digital literacy training for over 5,000 school teachers, school leaders, and college lecturers in multiple countries, including South Africa, Kenya, and Zimbabwe. I was inaugural winner of the British Council Baldev Singh Award for demonstrating impact through innovative, creative, and dynamic training in 2020. And I was the 3rd best public speaker in the world in 2002 in the Toastmasters World Championship of Public Speaking. I've consulted and or trained in countries including, but not limited to, Zimbabwe, South Africa, USA, UK, Sudan, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, Mauritius, Kenya, Egypt, among others. So I just thought I would share that background so that you have an idea of where I'm coming from and my background. By the way, please feel free at any point to raise your hand if you would like to ask a question or share a comment. I don't mind you interrupting. And if for any reason you can't raise the hand, feel free to just unmute and speak. I'm okay with that as well. Right. Having shared the introduction, you now know who I am. Let me move on. Our agenda is as follows. We'll look at the rationale and objectives of this session. We'll also look at the background, and then we'll talk about essential concepts of artificial intelligence. We'll then talk about generative artificial intelligence, which is the branch of AI that I'm focusing on. We'll also talk about foundational models. These are the models that are being used right now in the world to access AI. And then we'll talk about prompting a little bit. We won't go into too much detail because we don't have much time. And then we'll look at some practical exercises where we will look at a few relevant methods or a few relevant instances where you can use AI as a teacher. And then we'll have a question and answer. The quiz, I'll skip that for today. And then I will give you a chance to evaluate my presentation. I'll give you a link for an online anonymous form that you can complete. Right, so let us proceed. Rationale, why are we doing this? Because we have a revolution on our hands. The changes that AI is bringing in a short period of time are so significant that there are indications that a lot of people might end up losing their jobs, or their jobs might be redefined because of AI. So this is a revolution which will create a significant impact. And the revolution I'm talking about, the specific changes relating to generative AI, are just over a year old. It was in November, December 2022 that ChatGPT was released to the world, at least the version 3, which was significantly advanced. And if you look at the time, it's very short, but the changes that have occurred in this short period are significant. So that's one of the rationale. That's why we are doing this. It will improve learning outcomes. So far, it is still in its infancy. It's a young field in terms of time. As I said, it's just over a year since the revolution of generative AI reached the level that it has reached. But it is already being shown that it can improve learning outcomes. So that's part of the rationale why we are looking at this. It will increase your efficiency and your effectiveness as a teacher. Efficiency, or somebody in the teaching profession, efficiency speaks to doing more work in a shorter period of time at a lower cost, and effectiveness is about achieving the results, particularly the learning outcomes. And career preparation. We need to teach our children for the future, not the past. The future is technology, is artificial intelligence. And if we don't prepare them, it means that they will emerge from our colleges, our high schools, our universities, half-baked. They will be disadvantaged. So this is career preparation, but it is also career preparation for you as a teacher, because there'll come a time in the not too distant future when you will be considered illiterate if you cannot utilize this technology. So this is important for your own development as a teacher, and it's also important for the careers of the students that are coming out of our schools and our colleges. Our objectives today are, number one, understand the basics, the AI basics, the foundation, the elementary concepts. We also want to learn about AI tools. What are the tools that are out there that we can start using right now? And in addition to that, we also want to familiarize with the AI tools. We want you to be familiar with them. And finally, we want to look at you starting to think about an adaptation plan. How can you adapt your teaching so that you benefit from AI? How can you adapt the concepts I'm sharing with you so that you apply them in your specific context so that you benefit, you improve your learning outcomes, you increase your efficiency and effectiveness, you prepare yourself for this revolution and impact, and you position yourself favorably in terms of your career by updating your knowledge and making sure you are future ready. So that's an important term. Are you future ready, regardless of your age? Moving on, let's very quickly look at the background of AI. Now, most of you might not know this, but AI is not exactly a new field. When I was at university and I grew interested, if not obsessed, with ICT, particularly software development, this is way back, 1980, that'll be 88, 89, 90, graduating in 91. Or AI was already there. We were talking of AI. So the birth of AI, or artificial intelligence, goes to the 1950s. And around 1956, there was a conference that was held at Dartmouth. And from that conference, the term artificial intelligence was born, 1956. So it's not a new concept per se, but the way it has grown and the level that it has reached now is unprecedented. 1960s to the 1970s, we had early AI breakthroughs. And these breakthroughs saw, for example, the creation of a program in 1966 called ELIZA, which could understand, to a certain extent, natural language. You could relate with it through typing as if you are talking to a person. And as long as you were not entering complicated statements, it was able to understand and respond almost as if it's a human being. And that's 1966. And then we also had creation of expert systems, especially in the 1980s to the 90s. And these expert systems, in fact, are artificial intelligence, but they were focusing on specific domains. So, for example, they could focus on maybe automotive industry, manufacturing, assembling of cars, right? So there was a level of reasoning, almost like a human being, but in a specific domain. It wasn't generalized. And then the 2000s saw machine learning and the beginning of big data. So big data is really accumulating a lot of information, especially as the hardware increased capacity. We now had hard drives that could store a lot of information. When I went to university in 1988, I remember the computer I used didn't have a hard disk. It had what was called a floppy disk, and it could take a maximum of 360 kilobytes. And that was meant to be a lot. But we see over the period, computers have become a lot more powerful. And with that, we have big data. And then we started having machine learning. What is machine learning? Machine learning is when a computer program is programmed to perform a certain activity, see the results, use those results to refine itself. So the machine is continually changing. If it's playing chess and it loses a chess game, it then analyzes what happened and it's able to change how it will play chess the next time around. That is machine learning. It's the ability of the computer to learn from results and to feedback that learning into itself so that it gets smarter, it gets more intelligent, and it'll do things differently. Late 2000s to the present day, we now have deep learning and the AI boom. And that's what exactly I'm going to be talking about today. So I know I took a little bit of time on that background. I just find that when I understand the background, it's easier for me to then grasp the techniques, the concepts. But if I don't know the background, it is not easy for me to learn something. So I thought it's best that I also share with you that background. You don't have to be an expert on it, but I feel just understanding it lays a foundation on which you can build the other concepts. Right, moving on. What is AI? AI, or artificial intelligence, is basically machines that can do things that normally need smart people to do. They can learn, solve problems, and even make decisions, but not necessarily in the same way humans do. It's like teaching a computer to be really, really good at something specific, like playing chess or recognizing faces or assembling cars, you name it. Or even right now, there's a big change in the world where we've got autonomous vehicles, cars that can drive themselves. That is artificial intelligence. And that artificial intelligence is restricted to the domain of cars. But if you look at it, it is making use of a number of different technologies, whether the technologies are to do with assessment of speed and regulating speed, whether they're to do with sensing the surroundings and the other cars around here. So it can have infrared sensors. It can have sensors that almost act like it has eyes, like visual sensors. So all those are combining together to give us something that is really smart, that can do things that normally need intelligent people to do. But the part that we are concerned about today and in this program is generative AI, generative artificial intelligence. This is a branch of artificial intelligence that involves training models to learn from existing data and generate new content. Now, that is exciting. This is what has taken the world by storm. We have got computer programs that are able to generate content. They can generate images, pictures, they can generate music, they can generate text. And these models use learned patterns and statistical distributions to create original and creative samples that resemble the training data. The real challenge or the beauty or what has made this so explosive is that when the AI generates the content and we give it to you, you are not able to tell, was this done by a machine or a human being? You see, so when you reach that stage of artificial intelligence, when the output from an artificial intelligent software is indistinguishable, or in some cases superior to the output produced by a human being who is an expert in that area, you know that we have now reached a certain threshold. We've reached a threshold where this AI can be applied in real life in such a way that humanity benefits from it. So that's generative AI. Generative AI is about artificial intelligence generating content, images, pictures, videos, text, poetry, books, lesson plans, you name it. All of this being generated automatically by a machine and reaching such high standards that you cannot tell whether it was done by an expert human being or by a machine. Right. Having covered all that, let's now go into the meat of what I'm sharing with you today. There are a number of foundational models. Now, these foundational models are really very advanced machine learning, deep learning models that have been programmed not to perform specific tasks, but to take a lot of data. Like imagine all the data that is on the internet, take it, crunch it, make sense of it, organize it, statistically analyze it, get from it certain patterns, and based on those patterns, be able to predict, let's say, the next word that will come in a sentence. So at a basic level, what the AI is doing is quite simple. It's just taking a lot of data and knowing how to relate this data. So if it gets a sentence such as a man is, based on statistics, on the number of words and sentences that it has analyzed, it can guess with a reasonably high level of accuracy what the next word should be after you say a man is or a woman is, right? So this is what it is, but it has been done at a very deep level. And the first tool I'll talk about is ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the one that really astounded the world end of 2022, in December, November, thereabouts. And it came from an organization called OpenAI. OpenAI started as a non-profit making organization, but I think they've now sort of changed that model somewhat. And they are still not a profit making per se, but they are no longer just a non-profit making organization. So that's ChatGPT. And there are two models of ChatGPT that are currently in use. One is 3 or 3.5, which is free for anyone to use anywhere in the world. And then the other one is 4, which one needs to pay for. And I think the basic model, there are various models, you'll be paying US $20 a month. So we're not interested in the one where you have to pay. We are looking at the free option here. So that's ChatGPT. And I'll demonstrate ChatGPT and the others. The other one I've got is not necessarily a foundational model, but it's one of my favorite. It's called POE, P-O-E. And what I like about POE is that it acts as a portal, as an aggregator, if you want. It gives you access to a number of different models. So through POE, you can access ChatGPT. Through POE, you can access Llama, which is from Facebook, the same company that gives us Facebook, Meta, right? You can access different tools, and so it's in one place, and you're able to access this. And there's certain things that I can do with POE that I'm not able to do with the other engines. So POE is one of my favorites. And then there's Google Gemini. Google started off with Bard. Bard was meant to be a competitor for ChatGPT, but it didn't deliver very well. And now, recently, like last week, in the last 2 weeks, they came up with Gemini and they removed Bard. So Gemini is a much more powerful model. And right now, people have been comparing it to ChatGPT to see which is more powerful. So that's also a foundational model that I'll talk about, and we'll do a little bit of demonstration. And then there's Copilot. Copilot is a Microsoft product, which is quite advanced. Microsoft, you might not know this, has actually invested a significant amount of money into OpenAI and ChatGPT so that they have access to the technology. And right now, as we speak, Microsoft is embedding aspects of AI into its products, particularly its Office products. So you'll find very soon that you'll be, in fact, already in some of the versions of their Word and Excel and PowerPoint, you are able to access AI directly from within the model. But in addition to that, they also have Copilot, which is a foundational model, or based on a few foundational models, which we're also going to look at right now. Okay, So I've been speaking for a long time, and I now want to get practical. I want to demonstrate to you these tools and how they work. Before I do that, I just want to check that people are still online, that I'm not talking to myself. So if you're still online and I'm not talking to myself and you want me to proceed, please type yes in the chat, either in Telegram, in the NetGen Telegram group, or here in Zoom. I will wait until at least 6 people type yes, and then we'll move on. So I'm counting the yeses, okay? I can see Netzanet, you're leading with a yes. Nathaniel, you've got a yes. Abigail, welcome. It's great to have you here. Tion, you put yes, and there's somebody who's got a Technophone, TechnoSpark 4. Kelema work, wow! All right. So that is more than 5 that I counted for. So great, people are listening. Let's now proceed to demonstration. So what I'm going to do first is I'll stop sharing my screen because I want to share a different part of the screen. I would like to share my browser. So let me open a new instance of Google Chrome, a new clean instance of Google Chrome. Come on, it's opening the old one. I want to open a new one. Google Chrome, right? Okay, let me just open a new instance of that. And I take it out of this group on its own. Right, okay, I'm ready to share my screen. So please take notes, look carefully at what I'm doing, and learn what you can. So we go to share screen, and I'm sharing this screen. Can you see my screen? Somebody unmute and say yes in the microphone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you for the feedback. Right, so let me start. The first thing I'm going to do is go to ChatGPT. So I'll type here chat.openai.com. Right, so that is the website for ChatGPT. You may need to register when you use it for the first time. I think I registered a while back, so I don't remember. But if you need to register, I think the most important thing you need is an email address so that they confirm that it's you by sending a code to your email address that you then need to type in. So I'm sure you're all familiar with how software works on the web. So chat.openai.com. Right. So there you are. That's a screen from ChatGPT. And it says here, ask anything. Right. So as a teacher, or maybe let's make this interactive. The very first thing, whatever you type into the generative AI is called a prompt. Prompt, right? So the statement we type is a prompt. We are prompting the AI to do something. What would you like the AI? This is generative AI, by the way. So what do you want? And the one I'm using right now is for text. We are looking at generating text. We might look at pictures on another day, but today we are focusing on text. So what do you want me to ask the AI to generate? Feel free to unmute and say something, particularly those who have not used AI before. If you have not used AI and you want it to generate something, what do you want it to write for us? Or what question do you have for it that you want it to answer? Please unmute and share with me. I want to give you the opportunity to determine the first prompt that we are giving AI, especially if you have not used AI before. Somebody unmute and talk to us. I am waiting, or you can type in the chat anything you want us to ask the AI to do or to generate. No one has anything. All right, let me start. I will say to AI, how can I, or maybe let me say, write a detailed explanation of the most effective ways I can use to make my right. What is the highest level of primary school in Ethiopia. In Zimbabwe, we start from grade 1 up to grade 7, and then we go to secondary school. In Ethiopia, what do you have?
Grade 8.
You go up to grade 8.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let me say write a detailed explanation of the most effective ways I can use to make my grade, let me choose grade 4 mathematics lessons interactive, fun, and highly engaging. Right. So that's what I've just asked AI to do. Write a detailed explanation of the most effective ways I can use to make my grade 4 mathematics lessons interactive, fun, and highly engaging. Right. So this is what it's given me. Creating interactive, fun, and engaging grade 4 mathematics lessons is a fantastic goal that can enhance students' understanding and enjoyment of the subject. Here is a detailed breakdown of some effective strategies you can use. Number 1, hands-on activities. Incorporate hands-on activities that allow students to manipulate objects and engage with mathematical concepts tangibly. For example, use manipulatives like blocks, fraction bars, or geometric shapes for teaching concepts like fractions, geometry, or measurement. In fact, let me do this for you. What I'm going to do is I will share in both the chat and in Telegram everything I've done here. Firstly, I will share with you the URL or the website for OpenAI, right? Somebody says I can't hear anything. Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Netzanet can hear me. All right. Kelemewo can hear me. All right. So I think it's one person who, for some reason, maybe network-wise, they cannot hear me. So I've just typed in. I've just typed in the chat the URL or the email address of ChatGPT. Chat.openai.com. So let me type it in there. I've also typed that in Telegram. What I'm going to do next is I will copy and paste the prompt that I used so that you can see it. Okay. So now I'm entering the prompt so that you can see the exact prompt that I used. Prompt. Do this right. You don't have to type the word prompt. I just put it so that you know what that is. Right. So that's the prompt. I'm also pasting it in Telegram. Right. There are 2 people in the waiting room. Let me admit them. Right. Now, what I'm going to do is paste the result. Right. Let me copy the result and paste it in both the chat and in Telegram. Right. Results. Okay, that's a bit too long. Sorry, it's too long for the chat. So I'm just putting that one in Telegram. The chat told me, sorry, this is too long. So results. I'm putting that results in Telegram. Right. So I'll give you a minute to just read what I've sent, and then I'll ask you to comment on that one. So this is what ChatGPT gave in response to my question. I'll be quiet for about 20 seconds for you to read this. Right, I'm just waiting for you to read through the answer that we got from ChatGPT when I gave it that prompt, which I shared with you, and then we'll move on after that.
Can you make the font a little bit bigger?
Okay, all right. Just a moment. Let me see if I can do that. Are you able to access the what is it called? The group, the NetGen Telegram group, because you can read it from there. It will be easier for you. I've made the font a bit bigger. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
But I think the easiest way, if you are a member of the NetGen Telegram group, you can read it from there. It'll be easier to read from your gadget in Telegram.
Okay, thank you.
Right. I would like us to try another. Hang on. Wait a minute. Yes. All right. Yes. Okay. I couldn't see the message I pasted in Telegram. I was checking if it's appearing on my phone. I would like to try another prompt, and this time we will use a different AI tool. So think of a prompt you want me to type. You can send the prompt you can type it in the Telegram or in the chat. But in the meantime, I'm going to Poe. So Poe is POE.com/chat GPT. Okay, that's how you get to Poe. Poe.com/chat GPT. In fact, hang on, I can actually just do Poe.com, right? Yeah, you can just do Poe, POE.com. Let me post that in both the chat and in Telegram so that you can have a look at it. Right, so it's Poe.com. And when you do that, it will take you to this screen that is displayed right now, where you've got a number of options. My favorite is GPT 3.5 Turbo. GPT 3.5 Turbo. That's the one I normally choose. And once I've chosen that, I can then start a new chat or enter my prompt. So here's a question. What prompt do you want us to type? What do we want to get? What do you want us to ask ChatGPT to create or to give us? Can anybody suggest anything? What do you want us to ask ChatGPT to give us? I'm looking in the group. I'm not seeing anything. All right, let me put something. Write a lesson plan for, please keep your microphones muted unless you are contributing something. Right. So write a lesson plan for, what shall I say? Lesson plan for grade 8. This is interesting, but this won't do. This will work in another one. Some of the tools we are using have access to the internet. Others don't have. GPT 3.5 Turbo doesn't have access to the internet. So it is you looking at historic information. Okay, let me put it this way. Write a lesson plan for introducing the topic of fractions to a class that is learning about fractions for the very first time. Okay, so that is the prompt I have put there. Let me share with you that prompt in the chat and also via Telegram, right? So that you can all see the prompt that I'm using. Right. Write a lesson plan for introducing the topic of fractions to a class that is learning about fractions for the very first time. So let us see what Paul will come up with. Right. So this time what I'm going to do is I will copy this because it's quite long, and paste it in the Telegram. And I want you to read it and then give me your comments. I want your comments so that I know what you think about it. Is it making sense? Do you think this is practical? Is it usable? Do you think this is poor quality? Whatever you think, it's up to you. So I'm just posting the results of that prompt in our Telegram group. So please read it. Maybe I can read it whilst we're reading it together. Lesson plan, Introduction to Fractions. Objective, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to understand the concept of fractions, identify the parts of a fraction, and represent fractions using visual models. Materials, whiteboard or chalkboard, markers or chalk, fraction manipulatives, e.g. fraction circles, fraction bars, printed worksheets with fraction problems, scissors, glue sticks, warm-ups. Begin the lesson by asking students if they have ever shared a pizza or a cake with someone. You can adapt it to your context, right? Discuss how they decided how much each person would get and if it was always an equal amount. Introduce the term fraction and explain that fractions help us describe parts of a whole. Instructional steps. Display a simple fraction, e.g. 1/2 on the board and ask students what they think it represents. Number 2, discuss that fractions have two parts, the numerator, that is the top number, and the denominator, the bottom number. Explain that the numerator tells us how many parts we have, and the denominator tells us how many equal parts make up a whole. 3, use visual aids like fraction circles or fraction bars to demonstrate different fractions. Show students how to break these visual models into equal parts and identify the numerator and the denominator. Right, let me pause at this point. May I have your responses? What do you think of the feedback or the results that we have received so far from the AI? Can anybody share with us? Feel free to unmute and speak to us, or alternatively, type your response in the chat, either in Telegram or here in Zoom. Let me hear from you. Who's going to give us their first response?
Can I?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, I'm Fuzia from Hawassa, and what I have seen and AI generated responses is using that we're giving it. So contextualizing is the responsibility of the teacher, I think. And in line with this, I would like to forward a question for you. You can respond at the end of your presentation, maybe. How do you view the academic integrity, the ethical and the responsible use of these AI tools in academics, in the academia world? Thank you so much.
I will speak to that in my last 2 slides when I will talk about some of the challenges and issues that relates to AI. I will respond to that question just now when I go to my last 2 slides. Thank you for that question, and thank you for your contribution, Fozia. I totally agree. Contextualizing is important because, as they say in computer programming or in software development, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't give the AI context, then the answer it will give you will be substandard, since it will not have the context that enable it to bring you the best out. So contextualizing is important. The whole approach, the prompting, is actually a discipline on its own that we'll need to learn. How do we prompt? How do we craft prompts that give us the results that we want? Thank you very much, Fozia. I appreciate your contribution. Let's have one more contribution before we move on. Ewinetu, I see your microphone is open. Would you like to say something? Ewinetu?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Sorry for the late coming. I'm coming lately because my connection is lost. So I don't say something because I'm lately coming from due to connection. That's why.
Okay, no problem. We are recording this session. We will share the video recording. I have no doubt that when you go through the recording, you'll be able to catch up. But thank you so much for joining us. Better late than never.
Okay, okay. Nice.
Thanks. Right, can I have a response from one more person? Anyone wants to share with us? What is your response on what has been generated so far? MG, your hand is raised. Please unmute and talk to us. MG, your hand is raised. Unmute your microphone and then talk to us. MG, if you're speaking, your microphone is muted. We can't hear you. Okay, right. I think MG might be having a problem. Let me move on to one more example, and this time let's use Copilot. So you will find that as you use the different foundational models, they have different strengths. And by using them, you'll begin to appreciate that this one seems to provide better responses, this kind of prompt, and this one seems to provide more comprehensive responses to this kind of prompt. And that way, you can then choose which one to use for which task that you'd like it to perform. So I've just copied into Telegram and also into the chat the URL or the website address for Copilot. So this is Copilot. Now, Copilot is quite advanced in that it mixes everything. You are able to generate not only text, but you can also generate pictures using Copilot. So maybe, although I wasn't planning on doing pictures, let's generate let's generate some text and then some pictures. So I'm going to do something related to a different subject. I will ask it to write a one-page summary of Ethiopian history since 1900. Let's see what this thing will come up with. Write a one-page summary of Ethiopian history since 1900. I'm just copying the prompt into both Telegram and into the chat. So let's see what Copilot will generate. Once again, I'll copy that answer into the NetGen Telegram group. It starts by saying that is a very challenging task, as Ethiopian history is very rich and complex. However, I'll try to give you a brief overview of some of the main events and developments that shaped Ethiopia since 1900. Here is my summary. Ethiopia is one of the oldest and most diverse countries in Africa, with a long history of independence and resistance to foreign domination. In the early 20th century, Ethiopia was ruled by Emperor Menelik II, who expanded the territory and modernized the country. He also successfully defended Ethiopia from Italian invasion in the First Italo-Ethiopian War, 1895 to 1896, making Ethiopia the only African country to defeat a European colonial power. And it gives a one there, a reference at the bottom. It will tell me where it got that from. After Menelik's death in 1913, Ethiopia faced political instability and internal conflicts as different factions competed for power. In 1930, Ras Tafari Makonnen became Emperor Haile Selassie I, claiming descent from the ancient Solomonic dynasty. He continued the modernization and reform of Ethiopia, but also faced opposition from some regional lords and nationalist movements. So, yeah, it's going on and on and on. In the interest of time, I might stop it. Let me just give it a few more seconds and see if it will continue. And then I will copy this answer and paste it in the Telegram group. So let's just see. I think it's right. This is quite a complex task that I've given it, but I think it has done a reasonably respectable job, but you'll be the judges. I'm now going to post the response in Telegram. And you'll notice that at the bottom of the response, it is giving us the references of where it got the responses that it gave. Source, it gives us the sources, and it numbers them, and it gives us the website links of where it got that information. So anyway, this is just a very introductory demonstration of what you can get. The tools I've used so far are ChatGPT, and I shared with you the link, Poe, and I shared with you the link, Copilot, I shared with you the link. The other one that I didn't use is Gemini, and I'll share with you the link. We are not going to have a chance to use Gemini right now in the interest of time, but I'm posting the link for Gemini in both the chat here in Zoom and also in Telegram. Right. So having said that, let me move on to the last part of my presentation and conclude. So please make sure you work with this thing. You try out the different prompts on your own and you see what works and what doesn't work. What I'm just giving you, as I mentioned, is just an introduction to AI for education so that you can appreciate at an elementary level the range of options and opportunities that it gives you. So let me stop sharing my screen, and then I will then go back to my PowerPoint presentation and conclude from the PowerPoint presentation. Right. So those are the foundational modules we looked at: ChatGPT, Poe, Gemini, and also Copilot. Moving on to the next part of my presentation, and I will answer the question that my colleague raised there. So for prompting, if we had time, would go in depth. All the issues about prompting, which Fozia mentioned. Context, we can set the context for prompting. We can put some constraints in terms of what we wanted to do. So for example, when we mention grade 4, that's a constraint we are putting so that it's not just looking at a universal answer, but it's looking at that. We can also put what we call qualifiers in terms of what we wanted to find in online searches, etc. And we can then add specific details that we would want it to include as it conducts that search and that analysis of our response. Practical exercises, please. I've demonstrated practically what it can do. I leave it to your imagination. You can try this out. You've got all the links. So in terms of potential pitfalls of AI, number one is hallucinations. There are instances where AI will generate answers that might sound logical, but are wrong or don't make sense. So when you use AI, you must cross-check. You must read whatever it produces and then amend it and adapt it as you see fit. You run the risk of producing nonsensical information if you do not check what the AI produces. This is what is called a hallucination in AI terminology. AI can also have bias from training because we said garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in determines what comes out. So some of the data we have online is biased. For example, there's a famous test that was done where various AI engines were asked to produce examples of entrepreneurs, business people. And guess what? Because the majority of entrepreneurs online are masculine, are male, it tended to give male figures as entrepreneurs. And yet, that is a bias. We do have a lot of female entrepreneurs, but maybe their presence online is not as, they're not as prevalent online as the ladies. So it's something to take into account that AI can have bias because of the data on which it was trained. Copyright issues, Fozia mentioned this. there are issues to do with copyright. And right now, it is a big issue. My recommendation is that you must acknowledge source. If you have something that has been generated by AI, even if the AI tool that you used does not do what Copilot did in terms of listing its sources, you must acknowledge that this is AI generated content. That is an aspect of having integrity, intellectual integrity, academic integrity. Best is to use AI tools that give you the sources of where they have actually extracted, so that you are acknowledging you are not committing intellectual fraud by claiming to have generated what you didn't generate. So this is also an issue later on I'll talk about. So there are ethical issues about the use of AI as well. And some of these are quite complex. And right now in the courts in the US, there are cases that the courts are grappling with that are to do with AI and its relevance and also its integrity when it comes to ethical issues. There is an issue of cheating by students. Students are going to cheat because you can say to me, no, right now in Ethiopia, all students are submitting their work written by hand. And I'll say to you, let's have this conversation in 5 years' time, and you'll be telling me a different story. You know why? Because this is a trend that's unstoppable. In 2007 or 9, thereabouts, well, I first used a smartphone in 2009. And back then, you would say, I have a smartphone. People say, oh, let's see what it's like. But guess what? In a few short years, it is so prevalent that all of you who are logged on here have smartphones doing the same things or slightly even more advanced than that first generation iPhone, right? So with technology, mark my words, the trend is that it gets more powerful and cheaper. More powerful and cheaper. So don't say, oh, this is not relevant because we are Ethiopia, students don't have access to this. Trust me, 5 years' time, it'll be a completely different story. The trend is more powerful and cheaper. Right, then students will cheat. There are tools that have been tried to detect cheating, but for all intents and purposes, cheating by students when they use AI is virtually undetectable. It's virtually undetectable. So what this means is, as educators, especially policymakers, we'll have to rethink how we do assessment, how we do evaluation of students. Perhaps we need to rely less on giving them assignments where they go and write essays and submit them, and we are more demonstrating. I don't know what it will be, but either way, we will have to live with the reality that, one, we cannot ignore and do away with AI. Two, we cannot detect most of the instances of AI cheating. So if we can't do that, we better change the way we assess and evaluate so that we are able to avoid the pitfall of having students submitting work that they did not produce. There are also unknown ramifications. This is so new that, apologies for that. Apologies, I was momentarily disconnected, but I have reconnected and I hope you can all see and hear me. So I was saying some of the ramifications, the effects of AI are unknown right now. We don't know because it's so new, and we will discover as we go. But I have faith that as human beings, we will be able to overcome whatever challenges we encounter. So that is what I had prepared for you for today. And in conclusion, I'll say that just as we are about to finish, the network is starting to misbehave, but we are almost done. So let me conclude. Right. So as I was saying, when you look at AI, it is really the sum total of all the data that it has been given, that it has used to train on. Let me change the network. Sorry, my network is telling me it's unstable and I don't want to be disconnected again. Let me see if I can change the network. Right. Okay, for now it seems to be stable. Can you hear me? Somebody say yes.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So let me conclude. None of us is as intelligent as all of us. The data that has been used to train AI is coming from so many of us, so many angles. So it's not something we can ignore because it is really the sum total of all the data that we've generated in the world. Yeah, maybe not 100%, but of a lot of the data. So my question to you is, what will you do next to apply AI, to adapt concepts of AI to your work and to use it in an ethical and responsible manner? This brings my presentation to an end. I will now welcome a few comments before we close the session. So please feel free to unmute and share with me your comments, questions, or feedback before we conclude the session.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We'll see next time.
Great, thank you. Any comment or question from anybody else? You can type in the chat or you can unmute and speak. I prefer to hear people speaking so that we have a conversation.
Yeah, shall I speak?
Please go ahead.
Fozia again.
Yes, Fozia.
So I appreciate your presentation. It's really inspirational. And we know that artificial intelligence is controversial and also an evolving field, and it has a potential to revolutionize education. And I wish there were more people today to attend to this session because it is really important. It's not about the teachers, maybe, as you have said, the objective of attending this training is for teachers also to stay in their career. They need to be aware of this concept. But how I see it is, it's not all about the teachers, or it's not only about the teachers, but also for the students, especially for the young generation. AI should be used wisely, because as you have said, AI limits students' creativity. If they have everything readily available on the internet, then the students might not do more readings and more thinking. And this is what I'm afraid about AI. I personally use AI. It explains concepts to me. As you have said, sometimes it gives you wrong information, and you need to have that ability of detecting when it is wrong, and you need to have the ability to cross-check the information you're gaining from AI. This is how I view it. But teachers need to be aware of it, and they need to be well equipped about artificial intelligence so that they can guide, they can protect their students. When I say protecting their students, it's not banning them from using artificial intelligence. Obviously, they cannot do it, but telling them or guiding them, their students, to have a wise use of this tool. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate your contribution. It is profound, it is relevant, and I agree with what you've said 100%. Thank you very much, Fozia. I appreciate that. Any other comments from anyone? Anyone else? Maybe let me ask somebody who hasn't spoken. Samuel, would you like to unmute and talk to us? Maybe let me hear from Samuel. Samuel, my friend, I can see you online. Samuel Abera, would you like to unmute your microphone and just share with us a comment or question? Sion, would you like to unmute and talk to us? Any comment or question?
Hello, Jonah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
This is
Nathaniel, please go ahead.
It's good to see you again.
Yes, go ahead.
It was an interesting session. I just want to add on some of the things that Fozia mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I think the use of AI in any aspect is inevitable, especially with the things that you have mentioned, where even in this session we had access to 4 AI engines where we can give a prompt and get a response. So these are also available in the form of apps where you have smartphones where students can use, teachers can use, where anybody can use. So the use of these engines is inevitable. And this is what I've seen even in my class. You know, previously you would have students, whenever you discuss some things, they would take out their phone and search on Google and ask you more questions concerning that. And now these days, when you give discussion points in the class, some of them would again take their phone and use ChatGPT or some other engine to get the response. So sure, we cannot restrict the use, but we can help them to use it responsibly, and so they can make the most of it. And even today, we were having proposal submissions for their thesis, and we have lots of proposals that had AI generated content. And sometimes you can easily tell if they have not taken time to look at them and try to see the content and modify it so it can be usable for them. So we had to sit down and talk with some of them to help them to really make the most of it and not just abuse the platform. So we have to be, as teachers and educators, we have to be ahead of the students in using these platforms and knowing how to help them, how to guide them using these platforms. So I think that's important. And one of the things that I believe it would help educators and researchers is that, especially for the prompt you gave it about Ethiopian history, I was also doing the same as you were giving the prompt, and I was getting responses similar to you, but in a different way. And I could see that it was a very good outline that would help me to start in the research. So even if it was not giving me a full, complete information, but at least I know which topics to focus on, where I could go to find further information about it. And I think that is what makes it really powerful for educators, researchers, and pretty much anybody working on anything.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate Signal. So on that note, we will, well, I've just posted in the chat here in Zoom and also in Telegram a link to an online form that I'm kindly requesting you to fill in. It's an anonymous evaluation of this presentation. So please feel free to be as honest as possible. And this will help me. This will also help NextGen in organizing future events of this nature. I would like to call upon Netzanet on behalf of NextGen to just say some closing remarks, and then we'll bring this to an end, and I will share the video of this recording once it has finished processing, and everybody can have access to it. Over to you, Netzanet.
Well, a big thank you to you, Jonah. This has been very useful and, as Fozia said, very instructional. So thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing these. I think all I could say is, you know, AI, like any other technology in education or for that matter in any other field, is a two-edged sword. If you use it well, it can make life a lot more easier. As a teacher, as you said earlier on, it can make us a lot more efficient and effective. If we try and ignore it, it will backfire. So I think the best thing to do is, you know, get on with it, educate yourself, be ahead of the curve, as Nathaniel said, and then that way you can make the most out of it. But I don't want to take too much of your time now. You've already, said it well. I think my hope and my expectation is that this will be the beginning of a conversation, both in the Telegram group, and also maybe we might just come back to you, Jonah, for a round two. Now we've done the introduction. What's the next stage? So I think you've got us started in thinking about it as teachers, as educators, on how to use AI. But there is quite a lot more to explore, and we want to count on you to help us, guide us in our exploration on this one. On that note, thank you very much once again, Jonah, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you found this very useful. This will be the beginning of many more similar sessions we'll be running in the coming weeks and months. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you. Goodbye for now.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.